UPTV Channel 6, tell it like it is, 8 p.m. Friday. I'm your host, Joe Stovall. To my left, no one. To my right, Big Wayne.
ILL, bear down.
You know
You
what?
heard it. You heard it.
Yeah.
You heard it. ILL, bear down.
You know, I have to take it. Because I think I sat here last week. Did I say something about standing on my head or something?
Let's do it.
If the Bears.
I need some more help. We'll wait till next week.
Yeah. Now, Johnny Dollar's on his way. He should be here
As soon as he
later on
get
the
here.
show. But I said last week on live TV that if the Chicago Bears beat the Indianapolis Colts, I would stand on my head, just like Dickie V said about Austin Peay against Illinois. First of all, I shouldn't have followed Dickie V. That's the first mistake,
right there.
You know. But this other thing, though, does that mean I go to the Hall of Fame in about 30 years?
We'll see. You got a little time. You know, your TV career is just now jumping off.
Just
we'll
jumping
see.
off.
You know,
Okay.
give you. Man,
Well, I
make it
appreciate
30 years. You know what I'm saying? But we'll see.
Man, it was a rough week for me, man.
Whew, I bet it was.
Wow. You know,
Got an
real-
offer on the table for you.
Say what?
I got an offer on the table for you.
What's the offer?
I mean,
I mean,
we got a quarterback on the bench that took us to the Super Bowl. You want him?
wow. Wow. Okay. Now, I ain't gonna say what you're referring to right now.
We got-
'cause we got
we-
50.
We got a quarterback on the bench that took us to the Super Bowl. Y'all are striving to get there. When I say y'all, I'm talking about the Minnesota Vikings. Only thing y'all lacking is QB, man. I mean, what was Tarvaris Jackson doing this?
We ain't even gonna talk about them right now.
Okay,
We ain't
okay.
gonna talk about them right now. Because if you're sitting out there at home, you're watching UPTV Channel 6, you see me sitting here in this blue shirt. I don't know if you can see this, and it's got the cursive. I've got the cursive shirt. This is Johnny Dollar's picking. And you see right here, it says, tell it like it is. And if you look at Big Wayne, if the camera shot can see, he's got on the block letters.
Like a real man.
He's got the Espen the magazine model.
Yeah.
Tell it like it is. These are the shirts that you'll see us when we're doing the show on WCFN. But we also give the love to UPTV Channel 6 because if it wasn't for them, it wouldn't be any WCFN. So
That's right.
Jason Liggett and the gang here at UPTV made
Much
it all
love,
happen.
much
so
love.
we give love to them. But we just want y'all to see tonight the gear that we have to wear. Speaking of gear, the Fighting Illini gearing up to play the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana Lafayette. I think Hurricane Hannah, or one of them hurricanes, blew them dudes on up here, and they should be up here
Ikey.
this weekend. Ike flowing through Texas right now,
Yeah.
knocking stuff over. And we're going to talk about what Ike has done to the baseball schedule in the second half of the show. But the Fighting Illini, right now, the Fighting Illini are 1-1. Went to Missouri. We all know what happened there. Last week, we had the throwback game with the throwback jerseys, helmets, all the great.
By the way, those were sweet, man. I like.
That was nice.
I would like to see them bust them out against Ohio State or something.
You know what?
Those were sweet, man. Give us a call. Tell us what y'all think about them uniforms.
And if you want to call us, you got to hit us at 328-8280. Now, to be honest with you, right now, Stat Girl 2.8, not here. Stat Girl 2.0, not here. And Stat Girl Light, not here. If we get a camera shot of Stat Girl,
Think I'll be able
I
to
dream a genie.
Think I'll be able to race over there and answer the phone?
Man, by the time you run over there and answer that phone and trip over these chairs that are in front, we will
I'm
have.
pretty quick on my feet, Joe.
I ain't saying you're quick on your
pretty
feet.
quick on my feet,
But I'm
man.
just saying that we would have $10,000 for America's Funniest Video when you trip over them chairs trying to get over there and answer that phone.
I'm not Bundy.
Ooh. All right. You made it. You excellent point right there. But if you that nimble,
I
we
am.
got to get you in a camp if you can run from
Hey,
there
man.
to them phones and back. Back to the subject matter at hand. Louisiana Lafayette coming into town, and they've lost 9 straight games to BCS teams. They come in after getting kind of smashed last week, so to speak. And Illinois, you got Juice Williams, as we all know. Last week, we watched him throw the ball down in Missouri, but this last week against Eastern Illinois,
Versatile quarterback.
we got to see the feet. 174 yards, a couple touchdowns running. Mikael LaShore, the local product, got to get some tick in the first half of the game, and he made it worthwhile. He moved the pile. He looks like he's a pretty good fit for the spread offense, and the fact that no shiftiness, north-south.
Middle of the season, you might see that young man moving to the starting lineup. Just from me, I mean, I ain't no pro analyst or nothing like that, but he ran the ball the hardest out of all the running backs last weekend.
I agree with you. Troy Pollard got an opportunity to get in the game in the second half and put one in the end zone. You know, he's coming back from that knee injury from last year. But Mikael really looked good in the fact that when he got the ball, there was no hesitation. He hit the hole, he had a nice burst, and with his size and strength, he's able to move tacklers. He's able to come off the first guy and get positive yards every time he touched the ball.
See, I would like to see Illinois even pound him, then come back with the frame, with the swiftness. You know, a lot of teams like to go fast and then pound. I would like to see Illinois beat up a few teams with Mikael LaShore and then come back with the speed and the frame.
You know, I have to agree with you on that 1-2 punch there. I think we talked about it at the beginning of the season. They were going to have to do running back by committee. And I think with running Mikael between the tackles, letting him run hard, and then come back with the shiftiness of Daniel Dufresne, I think we'll put defenses kind of off balance as they try to determine who they're going to, you know, almost picking your poison.
Then you got to throw Dan in there as a running back, too. You know, he's getting carries, too, out of the backfield. So
Well,
it's another change of pace.
Well, one guy who's been consistent for the first 2 games, Juice Williams, 380 yards total offense in the first 2 games of the season.
Yeah.
And all he needs is, I think, like 30 yards this weekend, and he'll be 5th all time on the total yardage board for the University of Illinois. And to me, going into just his 3rd game as a junior, that's phenomenal because he's still grasping what he's doing right now.
Keep in mind, that first team he played on was not that good. Not good at all.
Yeah, actually, that first team was horrible.
Right. So
I agree with you on that way that he did a lot on his own his freshman year. Last year, we know all about that season, 9-4 going to the Rose Bowl. But this year, it looks like he has total command of the offense. It used to be, well, you know, the question was about, well, can Juice throw the ball? I think he answered those questions real quickly in the first game of the season against Missouri, and now he's showing his.
And I know he has 4 interceptions, but literally 2 of those interceptions were in the receiver's hands.
Actually, 3
Right.
of those interceptions were in the receiver's hands. If you think about the 2 that happened in Missouri, and then you had 2 last week against Eastern, and the ball just went off to the receiver's hands into the defender's hands. So I think he's doing a lot better with the passing game than we expected. The concern, flipping it from the offense to the defense. Last week, Eastern Illinois had a back run for almost 185 yards.
Not almost, did.
And they ran between the tackles. And I know Cyrod Brown and Josh
Williams, Brent.
and Josh Brent didn't play last week. But even without those guys.
That was supposed to be our deepest position.
Right. What do you see happening? Why is the defense giving up so much yardage, especially on the ground?
The only thing I can think of is you got 2 new linebackers in there, and that's uncertainty on what they should be. They're probably thinking too much instead of reacting. Like Jay Lehman, he knew where he had to be. You know, he knew where he had to be on the field. Therefore, without, you know, if you're thinking, that kind of takes away from your athletic ability. Once some guys get the grasp of the defense and the grasp of what the other team's offense is trying to do, I think the athletic ability will take over, and then you'll see them start to make more plays.
Yeah, I mean, they gave up, as we all know, in the Missouri game, over 500 yards of total offense. Last week against Eastern, 216 yards rushing. And I know Coach Zook is still concerned about that. And you've got Tyrell Fenroy coming in, 7th leading rusher in the nation last year for Louisiana Lafayette. So you know you're going to get a heavy dose
And I mean,
Tyrell Fenroy.
I mean, just because, you know, it's a Southern team, you would think there's going to be a little bit more speed on the other side of that ball tomorrow. So I hope Illinois has been, you know, doing the things that they need to do in practice to get a grasp on their running game.
The other thing that you're going to be concerned with, the weather. It's raining tonight. It's supposed to rain tomorrow. And with the field condition, I know Illinois got the new turf down.
Sweet.
But it still may be slick. And if it's slick and you go to that spread offense, it may limit you in terms of some of the options that you may have. And if Louisiana Lafayette gets out there and they start pounding the ball between the tackles and start controlling some of that clock and keeping Illinois' high-powered offense off the field, things might be a little interesting. This game is not as easy as I think a lot of people are looking at when you look at the schedule and you look at Louisiana Lafayette in terms of what the Raging Cajuns have done in the past. You know, I'm looking at tomorrow's game. I'm looking at a 28-17 victory for Illinois. And the only reason why I say it's going to be that close is because of the weather conditions.
Yeah, most of the points are going to have to come from the run game. They put up a lot of points on the run game last week, but it's going to be a little different. It's not going to be as much of the option stuff because of the slick field. And like I said earlier on this show, I mean, this is where Markel might play a big part because you're going to have to run, like you say, in between the tackles, and a lot of that stuff wide is going to be cut out if the field is going to be slick.
Well, hopefully we won't have any injuries like we had last week. Miami Thomas was injured on a punt, and I think with his knee injury, he should be gone for the season based on the information that we have here. And the main thing you want to do right now, because after tomorrow's game, Illinois gets a week off before they go into Big Ten play, is really come out of your non-conference schedule. Number one, with a winning record, but number two, healthy, no injuries. And that's really the major injury that's happened going into the first 2 weeks of the season, and hopefully you can come out of tomorrow's game without any big injuries in terms of that.
This is like the first time in a couple of years or so they had a bye week during the season.
I think in terms of going into the Big Ten schedule, I think it's the first time we've had one. I know they've had some byes later on in the Big Ten schedule, but to have it to go into the opening Big Ten game, I think will help because their opener is a tough one.
At Penn State.
At Penn State, and we all know
they cannot look past tomorrow, but if they can get out of, like you say, out of tomorrow healthy and with a victory, this bye week is actually perfect.
Now, there's another big game going on tomorrow, not just, Fighting Illini. We love to talk about Illini football here, but there's a big one, the collision in the Coliseum. USC ranked #1 in the nation.
Tollgate.
Taking on the Beanie Wells-less, Beanie Baby, Ohio State Buckeyes. Reports right now is that Beanie Wells is a game-time decision, but even if he does play with a toe injury or a foot injury that he has, he may be able to run north and south, but will he be effective in terms of trying to cut back? Because we all know the speed on the USC defense, as we got to witness that in the Rose Bowl.
Benny or
Ohio State got any chance?
Benny or no Benny, two touchdown win for USC.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, Ohio State hasn't shown me anything to show me that they can put enough points on the board to beat USC.
I actually agree with you in the fact that if you look at what they look like in the first game of the season against Youngstown State, it's not like Ohio State just came out there like
they beat them in the fourth quarter.
And then
both games.
Last week against Ohio, they were down.
Yeah.
And they got a couple of, I would hate to call it homer calls, but on a punt return that was taken back for a touchdown, there was some questionable blocks. Holding is what we call it in any other game, but it didn't happen.
Ohio State, they can probably, match up with them pretty good defensively, but I just can't see them moving the ball enough to beat USC. When I say 2 touchdowns, I'm thinking 28-14.
Well, to me, the only way I could see Ohio State even having a chance in this game, number one, I mean, I know it sounds like a broken record when you hear everybody talk about the keys to a game, but they have to play mistake-free football, meaning they cannot turn the football over.
And the defense is going to have to score.
Defense is going to have to score, but I think the other thing, Todd Beckman, senior leadership on the field, he's got to make some decisions, whether it be in the pass or the run game, where he's got to keep USC's high-powered offense. He's got to keep Mark Sanchez and that busload of running backs off the field.
How fair is it to Beckman that people from, the national media keep throwing this Terrell Pryor, when will he come in, and are they saving him for USC? For right now, the job is Todd Beckman's. Let him go out there and lose a job. Don't just automatically say that. Because it's not like USC hasn't seen somebody like Terrell Pryor before.
Right.
It's not like he's going to come in and just make that much of a difference to them winning the game. So I think it's kind of unfair to Beckman to have that pressure on him that going out there, one mistake, and he can come out to a freshman.
Yeah. Well, I know it's going to be a lot of pressure on Beckman, not only from looking over his shoulder to see if Terrell Pryor's there, but Ray Maluga, the linebacker that introduced himself. Yeah, he introduced himself to Juice Williams a couple times in the Rose Bowl. That's where really the pressure is going to come from.
Mm-hmm.
The team speed, as you talk about with USC, is outstanding on both sides of the ball. I think with Ohio State, we talk about mistake-free football, Beckman making some good decisions. But even if Benny Wells can't play, they still got to be able to control the ball on the ground. And that's where now, when you talk about Terrell Pryor, that's where I see his advantage is if he does come into the game, he's got to make some positive plays and be able to hold on to that football. He does give him a change of pace that Beckman may not give him on the ground.
Mm-hmm. Well, we thought that with Juice Williams last year too, but I ain't saying Juice is no Terrell Pryor or nothing like that, but USC showed that they can handle the running quarterback.
Yeah. Well, I won't say 2 touchdowns, but if Ohio State has any chance of winning this game, they've got to be able to go into the fourth quarter. This has got to be a 7-point game either way going into the fourth quarter for them to have any shot in terms of what's going to happen in that game. That game will be on tomorrow night at 7 p.m. So after you get a chance to check out the Illini.
The locals got a choice to make tomorrow.
Yeah, you do have a choice you got to make. And the choice is, do you stay at home and watch Ohio State and USC in the confine and comfort of your house, or do you go over to the Assembly Hall at 7 o'clock and watch some of the former greats in terms of the Legends game that will be played tomorrow night with Fighting Illini basketball? Now, Coach Weber and the athletic department has done a great job in putting this deal together, and you got Dee and Luther and Darren and their squad coming back, and then you got a lot of guys coming back from the old Flying Illini.
The question was raised, could they beat that team? Well, I guess we'll see tomorrow, huh?
Yeah. I think, it'll be a lot fairer if this game was played on Xbox as opposed on the basketball court. And it's all for a good cause. It's a great way to get folks reinvigorated in terms of 2008, 2009 Fighting Illini basketball season coming up. Now, the current players will be at the game, and they'll be signing autographs beforehand. But the guys we spoke of earlier will be on the court. It'll be 2 15-minute halves. It'll be a nice exhibition. I don't know if I know the old guys will be playing with a lot of pride, but I don't know what else they'll be bringing on the court.
Right.
They'll be bringing a lot of other things.
Think KB still can dunk?
No. And we love you, Kenny, but keep it low. Nothing but layups and jelly rolls.
Right.
Now, what's great about this event is that they're going to be raising some jerseys into the rafters tomorrow night in terms of some former Illini greats. You can go back and talk about whether it be Dave Downey or Don Freeman or Johnny Red Kerr or any of the other.
You're dating yourself.
Dang,
What?
You're right.
Yeah.
I am dating myself. D. Brown, Darren Williams, Luther Head, that's the era I came from.
Yeah, okay.
But with all these guys coming back, Corey Bradford, got to talk to him today, 3-point leader of all time for Fighting Illini. Deion Thomas may be back, all-time leading scorer, Kejuan Garris. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And my question, I'm going to throw this out because I know there's some people who got their own opinion. You can call us at 328-8280. Who, out of all the Illini players that you know and seen and heard about and watched, who's the greatest Fighting Illini ever? Ever. Come on.
Wow.
I know.
That's a tough question.
That make you scratch your dome there. That's one of them.
Can I don't know. I know you're going to correct me because you might not agree, but as far as impact on a program, I mean, I know it was recent, so a lot of people going to think, oh, well, he just D. Brown, man. He had a huge impact on this program from the time he stepped on the court.
Right.
He elevated everybody else's game. I haven't seen anybody at the U of I do that. I go back as far as probably Eddie Johnson.
Okay.
But Derek Harper was great. He was as far as natural point guard, he probably is the best, even better than as far as on the college level, even better than Darren Williams.
Right.
You know, Darren elevated his game after he left the U of I.
Right.
But as far as the college game, you got to say Derek Harper was the best point guard as far as talent. But D. Brown just elevated everybody else's game, and he had his town electric for 4 years.
Right. Now, see, I'm glad you just brought that up, because here's the great thing about this debate. There's no wrong answer, because there's so many different ways you can measure it. You just said that D. Brown, you think, was the greatest of all time because of the way he elevated everybody else's game, the impact he had on the university. I mean, he did bring an energy that you hadn't seen anytime.
You wish that every player come through here plays with his passion.
Yeah, I agree, because
he was not the best player, never.
And see, and that's, now I'm glad you're bringing that out, because now what are we talking about? Are we talking about the impact on a program? Are we talking about the best statistical player of all time? Are we talking about that guy that just, electrified the audience and the crowd and the university and the community when he walked out there? There are so many different ways that you can measure it. Here's where I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the measurables for me are, number one, how many Big Ten titles did you win?
You got a few.
You got a few. Number two, how many individual accolades did you get? Were you considered an All-American? Were you all Big Ten?
He fits the criteria for that.
Number three, were you considered the MVP of your conference?
Yeah.
And I throw those, and here's why I say that. Is because, let's go back just to the Flying Illini team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Nick Anderson, great player.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny Battle, great player.
Number 13 was the glue.
Right. Inspirational player there. You had Kendall Gill, who was a defensive stopper and could get you big buckets whenever you needed.
Mm-hmm.
You had Steve Bardo, who was the quarterback of the team. He directed them on the offense and defensive end. Very cerebral player, knew how to get them in the right positions.
Coach on the floor.
Lowell Hamilton, athletic center, who could take big guys out on the perimeter. So you had all different types.
And he did the dirty work. He wasn't that big, but he had to guard everybody's big man.
Then you got Marcus Liberty, a guy like Marcus Liberty who came off the bench, who was a parade All-American Player of the Year back in the mid-'80s. Dick Vitale always used to scream, "Give me liberty or give me death." One of the best players he had ever seen.
Best high school player I ever seen.
And I have to agree with you on that. And so you had all those players on that team. You move forward to D. Brown, Darren Williams, Luther Head, and that squad, as you talked about D, he was All-American, point guard, leading scorer on the team along with Luther. Gave a lot of energy to that team. Roger Powell, great power forward who did all the dirty work. James Augustine, similar to Lowell Hamilton. In fact, he got to move around.
Left-handed.
But I take those two squads, and in between, there was a group when Bill Self first came here, and he brought Wayne McClain on as his assistant coach. And actually, this was, Wayne came on afterwards, but he used Wayne McClain for that Peoria pipeline. And he brought his son Sergio over, brought Marcus Griffin over. But the man that I think was the best fighting line player of all time, Frank Williams. And the reason why I say Frank Williams, he was a two-time MVP of the Big Ten. I think they either won outright or shared the Big Ten Conference the 3 years that he played. And Frank Williams, I talked about this earlier today on the radio, I think of two things. I think of a game, and then I think of a situation. The situation, they were playing Minnesota up in the barn. Minnesota had about a 10 or 12-point lead with about 2 minutes left, and it was similar to that Arizona game that Illinois had with the team that went to the Final Four. Illinois had to break down Minnesota within about 2 minutes to basically tie the game up, get the lead, and win the game to win the Big Ten. And Frank Williams did that all by himself. But Frank Williams exerted the same amount of energy at that point in the game as he did in the first 2 minutes of the game. He was smooth as silk. He never seemed like he was out of control in terms of the way he played, and he always had a very calm demeanor. But the game, to me, that stood out was when they played Kansas in the Sweet 16. Kirk Heinrich, I had a few guys who played with Frank.
Buzzing him up.
Said that Kirk was just chirping away. Chirp, chirp, chirp. And they told Frank about him, and they said, Frank just said, "Don't worry, I got it." And he got it. He busted Kurt Heinrich like a balloon at a 3-year-old's birthday party. Kurt Heinrich could not handle the ball that night. He couldn't score, and he couldn't defend Frank. And I think, to me, that's what elevated Frank to that level of basketball player.
That's. I mean, I agree. Frank was outstanding, but it was so many times to where outside stuff had to motivate him. And with D Brown, you never had that. D never left the play on the court. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. D gave it his all out. It's just maybe it was Frank's demeanor, like you said, but it just seemed like some games that he didn't bring it every game. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that D went out there and scored 18, 20 points every game, but you always saw the effort.
And see, I think what happened with Frank, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's where, like I said, this is a great argument, a great debate, because Frank was one of those guys that when he played the same way all the time like D, but I think Frank was so naturally gifted. Sometimes you can't appreciate talent like that because people are so good. It's effortless. They don't look like they're trying.
You can ask anybody that hangs around. I always said, man, I wish Frank Williams had the energy that D Brown had. No telling what he would be doing right now.
Right.
With the skills that he has.
Yeah, because I thought, like I said, when Frank wanted to score,
nobody could stop
him. Nobody could stop him.
Nobody.
And on defense, when he wanted to lock somebody down, stick it in, turn the key, the door was locked, you couldn't do nothing with it. Now, this is no slight to any of the other guys, because you think about a guy like, let's take you back to just to date you, Dave Downey. He still holds the single game scoring record for the Fighting Illini, and he did that back in the 60s. Now, we've had a plethora of great basketball players go through this university, and that record still stands 40-some years later. So that tells you the greatness of a Dave Downey.
Right.
Don Freeman was another great scorer that played for the University of Illinois. Nick Connor, Nick Weatherspoon. There's another guy, and you talk about effort and ability and talent. You start with the era of Eddie Johnson. Mm-hmm. Well, Eddie Johnson, sharpshooter, and went on to have a prolific career in the NBA, a long career. I mean, Eddie played,
played a long time.
15, 17 years in the NBA and played at a high level.
Right.
But his partner, God rest his soul, Mark Smith. I remember in '79 when the Magic Johnson led Michigan State Spartans came to town, #1 ranked team in the nation, and they got beat by the University of Illinois. And Mark Smith was comparable to Magic Johnson in the fact that he was 6'8". He could handle the ball, he could pass, he could shoot, he could score, but he also had that same easygoing demeanor like Frank Williams. So a lot of people looked at Eddie because Eddie was Eddie worked for his.
Right.
And not to say that Mark wasn't working for his, but it just seemed like
it just came easier.
It seemed like it came easier. It just flowed, and when he wanted to do things. But I mean, like I said, we could go on and on with this debate because you got a lot of great talent out there. So if you got your opinion on this, give us a call, 328-8280, and we'll be talking to you on Tell It Like It Is, UPTV Channel 6. Now, if you wanted to put together your top 5, because I know picking one is difficult, but if you had to take top 5, and it doesn't matter what position, you could have 4 guards in the center or whatever.
Okay.
Who would be your top 5?
My top 5. No disrespect to all the older guys out there. You got to remember, I'm only 34 years old. Deion Thomas.
Wait a minute, hold on, before you go any further. You're only 34 years old.
Yeah, man.
Man, you better show me. Where do you get your paper from? The Dominican Republic? You're a Cuban baseball player.
Yeah, I'm 34, bro.
You're 34. Okay, I'm sitting next to Daniel Almonte, the little leaguer. You may continue.
Deion Thomas. Got to throw D Brown on there.
Okay.
Eddie Johnson.
Eddie Johnson.
Derek Harper. Where I'm at, 4.
Let's see. Deion Thomas, D Brown,
Derek Harper, Eddie Johnson.
Eddie Johnson.
Ooh, it's tough. It's tough.
It is tough.
It's tough, man. Oh, man. Ooh, I'm going to have to go with Kendall Gill.
And Kendall Gill.
Yeah.
That's your 5.
Yeah.
Well, I think this just shows the difference. Show the difference in age in terms of how we go with this. Number 1, obviously Frank Williams is going to be on my team. If
Yeah.
I say he's the best of all time, and then I don't put him on the team, then I sound like Tony Kornheiser, or one of the other goofs out there. But Frank Williams would be on that team. Also, I'm going to put on that team Kenny Battle. I think Kenny Battle, when you talk
I
about
almost went with him.
a change in the environment at the university, when he transferred here from Northern Illinois, it changed the environment.
He was that team's D Brown.
Yes,
know,
I agree. I think he was
that team's D Brown.
he was the originator of enthusiasm and
Right.
energy, and I think when you think about the resurgence of Illinois basketball and when it went to that next level of them going to the Final Four, I got to put Kenny Battle on there. So I got Frank Williams, Kenny Battle. I'm also looking at, off of the 2014, I'm putting D Brown on there. Derek Harper would be on there. And you talk about athlete and talent, I think probably one of the most talented basketball players to wear an Illinois jersey. So there's my 4. And then my 5th, I'm going to have to go back. And like I said, I'm putting Dave Downey on there because if your scoring record, your single game scoring
Still,
record is still on the books and there was no three-point shot
Right.
during that era, that shows you what type of scorer and what type of player Dave Downey was. So that would be my
Probably didn't
top
even have a
5.
shot clock in then either.
No
So they
shot.
can hold the ball as long as they want.
And see, and now you see why this
Right.
debate about
Right.
who's what and this,
Yeah.
that is so great because whether it be shot clock, no shot clock, three-pointer, no
Yeah.
three-pointer, motion offense, now you got big guys shoot threes and all this other crazy stuff. And then here's the other thing. Now today you got guys, they don't want to shoot threes because they can get you on ESPN. Everybody wants the monster dunk.
Right.
So with that, I mean, that's Wayne's 5, that's my 5. You might disagree, you may not. It's all good for debate. First half of the show, UPTV Channel 6, Tell It Like It Is. Me and Big Wayne sitting here just talking sports. First half, we talked.
Man, we need some phone calls, man. I thought we had a pretty good conversation.
I thought we had a great conversation. And the fact it's a topic that I know people sit in the barbershops, beauty salons, nail shops.
There we go.
All of that to have these conversations. And as soon as you say it, you talk it up.
Hey, thanks, caller.
I appreciate somebody calling in. 328-8280. If you've got a conversation or want to get in on this conversation, just give us a hit. We got Invisistat Girl working the thing tonight. You just go ahead and give us a hit and we'll get you taken care of. Caller, tell us your name, tell us where you're calling from, tell it like it is.
I just have a question on Sunday's Colts Bulldogs game. Will the Colts be able to avenge their only loss or their first loss of the season to the Muhammad Bulldogs?
The Colts have to go out and play some stellar defense, number one, and then they've also got to be able to control the football and move the ball, and they might be able to avenge their only loss. Well, not their only loss, but avenge their first loss of the season against the Muhammad Bulldogs. We'll find out Sunday at 1:30 in Rantoul, up at Camp Rantoul where the line-out workout.
Who's the Colts starting quarterback nowadays?
Let's see. Kyle Loxley, Coach Mike Loxley's son, he got injured earlier this season. And so number 7, the little guy,
My program says Stovall.
you know what?
Hey.
That's the guy. Jamal Stovall, real proud of him, doing a great job. He's got to do his thing. If so, we can avenge our first loss against Muhammad, get back into the race for the CIYFL championship later on this year.
Hey, thanks, caller. Wonderful question.
Excellent question. But I know somebody's going to call us about this Illinois stuff. They got to.
Right.
You know, if not, so be it. We'll not worry about it. But if you want to call, talk about anything like this last caller, give us a hit, 328-8280. First half of the show was dedicated to all the orange and blue. That's why I'm sitting up here looking like a blueberry. Wayne's sitting up here looking like a good Florida orange.
Right.
But don't come down here peeling him because he'll get juice all on you.
Right.
The NFL, we went into the first week last week, and I'll just say this right here on TV right now. I have no clue what I'm talking about when it comes to football. That was proven by week 1.
Told y'all Peyton was rusty, man. Nobody wanted to believe me. Peyton's still Peyton.
The first week of the NFL season, I know everybody goes in 0-0, et cetera, et cetera. But the Bears,
Look like the Bears.
wow.
Yeah.
The Bears.
Hey, man.
The Chicago. I'm
Hey,
gonna tell you what. I'm gonna sit back. I'm gonna eat this humble pie and let you talk about your Bears.
You know, we got off to a great start. We got a running game these days, man. Got to run it. When you talk about the Chicago Bears, it's all about running the football
Yeah.
and hitting people in the mouth.
Yeah.
And that's what they did.
Yeah.
Forte came out, it wasn't nothing spectacular, 133 yards.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we topped that all year last year.
No.
Yeah, okay. Well, get used to it, Joe. Forte looked like he's the real deal.
I will say this, and I'm always gonna sprinkle some haterade on everything I say for the Bears because I can't do it. I just can't give them 100% love.
I know it.
I'm gonna give them about 93% love.
Okay.
Or no, wait a minute. I'm gonna do them like Ivory Soap. What is that? 97% pure. That's what I'm gonna give them right now. The Bears look excellent. The defense had Peyton Manning on his heels all night. I never saw Peyton Manning be that nervous and disheveled in terms of where is he going to make his check down, where's he going to throw the ball.
And their running game was non-existent.
Joseph Adai, Dominic Rhodes. I was looking for a repeat of Super Bowl 41. Didn't happen. Lance Briggs hit Joseph Adai like his Lamborghini hit the abutment out there on the Dan Ryan Expressway.
Took
The
off
only
running.
difference was Lance Briggs didn't take off running this time. He stayed at the scene of the accident when he took Joseph Adai's helmet off. The other thing, Mike Brown.
Yeah.
It is amazing the difference that one guy can make for a defense. Mike Brown coming back to that secondary. He was hurt first game of the season last year against San Diego. He's back out on the field. The one thing they didn't do, though, you never saw Mike Brown come up to the line of scrimmage.
And I heard Lovey say that they was going to not do that to protect him.
Yeah, and-
Well, they should have been doing that 2-3 years ago.
And you know what? That's a shame that it would take
Three injuries.
three devastating injuries
Yeah.
before they could figure out, he's our best player.
Stop
Stop
sending
sending
him
him up there
Yeah.
into harm's way. Linebackers and linemen, do your job,
Right.
and then Mike won't have to come up and do the cleanup. I think what that does is now with Mike Brown being able to sit back there deep in the secondary and basically use his vision, that's where all the turnovers have always come for the Bears in that too deep secondary, is he's a ball hawk. He's no different than what Bob Sanders is
Right.
to the Indianapolis Colts. Now, time for the haterade. On the offensive side of the ball, Matt Forte did an excellent job running the ball. Here's the thing that would concern me as a Bears fan.
Got to find some receivers.
You got to find some receivers, but the other thing about Forte, 6'2" running back, standing straight up, he got hit twice by Bob Sanders, and he got shook. Now, I will give him credit. Cedric, whoever, the
Would've been
former running
out
back,
the first game,
would have been on
first
a
hit.
stretcher, and he'd have been medevaced out of it.
Cedric the Tank Benson.
There you go, because
Not Tank because he running over somebody.
he gets in the tank. He jumps in the tank. And then he goes to sleep.
Right.
He's in a hyperbolic chamber. Cedric Benson would have been out the game. So I give Matt Forte the credit there. My thing is, as a Bear fan,
He got to get a little smaller.
you got to get a little smaller because can you go the rest of the 15 games running upright like that?
But
So
at the same time, we did see. I saw a little something out of Kevin Jones to where they won't have to really depend on Forte that much. Kevin Jones showed a little flashes of why he was drafted to the NFL. So
yeah, and like you said, with a rookie like Forte, you don't want to burn him up early.
And Joe, honestly, I mean, I know Orton did not. He didn't even pass for 200 yards. But for the first time, man, I watched the Bears game, and I was honestly not anticipating a turnover. When Grossman is in there, you are sitting there waiting for the turnover. I never got that feeling Sunday night.
Yeah, Grossman, when he was back there, was like watching Rachel Ray. You didn't know what he was going to cook up in terms of an apple turnover, a cherry turnover.
Right.
But you knew you were going to get one. But
Yeah.
you know what's amazing? It goes back to what you said about Mike Brown. It took 2 or 3 years to figure it out. Kyle Orton, his rookie year was 10-5.
Right.
The name of the game is to win.
Numbers don't mean nothing.
It doesn't matter. If the Baltimore Ravens can win the Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer,
Bears can do it with Orton.
that can tell you right there
Right.
all that needs to be said. Now, I ain't going to go so far after week 1 and say
Yeah.
they're going to the Super Bowl, but I will say they look good. They looked a lot better than anybody, anti-Bear fan, which I am, or a true Bear fan, ever expected happening in week 1. But now, week 1's over.
Woo.
We've got some teams and some folks that went through some stuff during week 1 that we would have never anticipated. Tom Brady, gone.
Never in a million
Sean
years would have saw that.
Merriman, gone.
He shouldn't even play anything.
Nate Burleson, done. In the first week of the season, you got basically, that's about $250 million a player
And just think, Joe,
off the field.
it's more to come.
More
More
to
to
come.
come.
I mean, let me ask you right now, Wayne. With Tom Brady down for the count, where do you see New England? Do you see
Playoffs.
them still going to the playoffs?
Playoffs.
Or do you see them falling out of the pack completely?
Playoffs. Yeah, I mean, that team is too good. I mean, Tom Brady came off the bench.
Yeah.
You know, people tend to forget that. You know, he was sitting back there waiting on his chance. I'm not saying that Matt Castle is a Tom Brady, but you never know.
Right?
You never know. A football team is more than about one person.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They got too many weapons on offense for them not to. Come on, man. It's the New England Patriots.
Yeah, and
To say that 7 more teams is better than them, I don't know.
and the fact
Well,
that
8 more teams. That, you know,
you still got Randy Moss,
right.
you still got Lawrence Maroney, you still got Wes Welker, and you still got the mastermind Bill Belichick. So as
Right.
long as Belichick, you know, I expect with the game coming up against the Jets, I'm expecting seeing him wearing a helmet with a camera inside it, pointing right across the field at the Jets
They
sideline.
better check his sweatshirt.
Right, to see if we get a spy game.
Right.
I think he might be like, remember I'll get you sucker, them big hats, little
Right.
midgets
You got a
inside.
little dude inside of
He
him.
might have one of them big old hats on his head with a little dude inside with an old camera up there filming. Sean Merriman, he's out. All going through training camp. Everybody from his doctors, Dr. Pepper, Dr. Scholl, Dr. Ruth, every doctor said,
Dr. Phil?
Dr. Phil and Dr. Phil Good. All of them told him, you
Don't
need knee
play.
surgery. Don't play. No, I'm good. I'm going to go out here with the knee brace on, and I'm going to manage through this. One game.
Well, they said that HGH can do stuff to your mind.
Yeah, well, it did something to him.
Right.
The logic there, and the fact we talked about this before. The NFL is a meat market. If your knee, if they would have tore that knee up to give him further damage, you think San Diego would be taking care of Sean Merriman?
Right.
No. They go out and find another Sean Merriman. So now, after taking the hit against Carolina and figuring out I don't need to be on the field, he's done. Final player, Nate Burleson, big-time free agent, wide receiver a couple years ago, brought into Seattle, goes down on just a simple out route, didn't even get touched, and now he's done for the season. Seattle has no receivers. Deion Branch is out.
He's a one-hit
Burleson out.
wonder.
Right. Oh,
He did his thing in the Super Bowl, and now he's a superstar.
right. No,
Not-
a super bust.
Right.
Is what he is. But Mike Holmgren is having open trials right now. Any receiver want to come up
The
there?
second, to me, the second biggest injury, whatever you want to call it, mind losing or whatever, Vince Young, man.
Week 1 recap. Vince Young, note to self: get your mama out your house. Look how much embarrassment. Vince Young sprains his MCL in the opening game. They talk about the fact he's going to have to get an MRI. He said a lot of people coming over to the house. He felt like he was getting a little claustrophobic, wanted to go watch the Vikings-Packers game, eat some wings, and next thing you know, somebody's tapping him on the shoulder talking about, hey man, they looking for you. Huh? His mama called the police, talking about she was worried about his state of mind.
Well, it's her baby, man. She know her baby when he left. She's
His
on
what?
her baby.
Her what?
Baby. Come on, man. Hey.
That's a grown man. That is a grown man making grown man money, making grown man decisions. And then he leaves the house without telling his mama where he's going, and she called 911. Imagine if Vince Young.
The truth ain't came out. You got to know the conversation they had before he left.
Okay, let me have a conversation. I ain't never been hurt before, mama. My knee. I just can't take this no more. I'm out of here. He out of here. Oh, Lord Jesus, Vince gonna kill himself.
Now the reports came out that he was talking about suicide.
Hey, when he meant he was out of here, maybe he meant he was going to Buffalo Wild Wing or Hooters or somewhere to give him some wings and watch the game. But now, what does that do to the locker room for the Tennessee Titans? That his mama is all up in his business.
How can you lead a group of grown men
when you can't lead yourself?
Okay. Quarterback is the most delicate position in pro sports.
I'm gonna say this right now, Brett Favre. I hope you're watching. I hope you think they get this in New York. I'm sorry, Brett.
Somebody.
I'm sorry for whatever I said about you and being sensitive in the way you behave. Because Vince Young and his mama this week just put quarterback position at a new low. So I apologize, Brett. That's my fault. Let's move on to week 2, man, because
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about this crying.
Week 2.
Bears.
No.
Uh-oh.
No.
I was going to start. See,
Don't even go there,
I was
Joe.
gonna start
Don't
with the-
go there.
I was going to start with the Bears
No.
game. It's the first one on my list.
No.
They played Carolina. So that's what, as the host of the show, reading my list,
No.
I was going to go to week 2
No,
predictions.
don't even try it.
Wow, it's on.
I bet you got Minnesota and Indianapolis on there.
Yeah, I do, but they're a little lower down. I was
Yeah.
going to get to them.
Hey,
I was just reading off my
One of
list.
them two teams.
Game 1.
It's some Colts fans out there. We in Central Illinois. There's some Colts fans out there.
Yeah.
And I got a Minnesota fan, right? One of y'all finna be 0-2.
Yeah, you're actually exactly right. Minnesota played Green Bay Monday night, and you had
Too bad, but
You had a $10 million Formula One vehicle being driven by a demolition derby driver. Tavares Jackson memo to self. You need to go to quarterback school.
he should
and
have went
learn
with
how to be a
Juice.
quarterback.
He should have went with
He
Juice
should
down
have
there
out, like Wayne said, him and Juice should have went with Donovan McNabb
and got some skills.
and got some skills because
It's working for Juice.
it ain't working for Tavares. I don't know if he hung out with Dom DeLuise or whoever this summer because he didn't hang out with Donovan McNabb.
Right.
The Minnesota Vikings have arguably the best offense and defensive line in the league,
Definitely the best offensive line.
arguably the best 1-2 punch in terms of running backs. They've got serviceable wide receivers. And then you got a quarterback who completed 2 passes for 16 yards in the season opener.
For as bad as Rex looked, man.
I can't believe my team is that bad. That was just a little Vince Young for you.
Right.
Tavares going up against the Colts, who Peyton Manning,
They gonna score.
very skittish against the Bears defense. Now he's coming into a dome, not his dome. Peyton Manning hasn't been 0-2 since his rookie year. Minnesota Vikings, sexy pick for Super Bowl contention in the NFC. And like Wayne just indicated, both teams are on the brink, 0-2. Can it be possible they both lose this game? Not. But I'm going to turn to Wayne
They can
first.
tie.
Who do you think is going to come out of this game victorious and why?
With all the pressure of not going on to, I think Peyton Manning is best equipped to handle that pressure. I got to go with Indianapolis.
Going with Indianapolis.
Yeah.
I will say this. I'm going to be a homer again, but, after the first 2 weeks, I might have to come back to reality. Jared Allen, no sacks, no tackles against the Green Bay Packers, and he got $875 billion.
How can you not get a sack when you got Big Pat and Big Kevin Williams?
But
Both of them getting double teamed.
And that's the reason why going up against the Colts, Tony Hugo, left tackle for the Colts, Peyton Manning's knee, not 100%. I got a feeling that you will see Jared Allen in the Colts backfield all day. And the fact they're playing in the Dome in Minnesota, a lot of noise, won't affect Peyton.
Peyton loves to.
But it will affect the offensive line for
Right.
the Colts. On the flip side, on the defensive side, due to the fact that Ed Johnson, the defensive tackle for the Colts, got arrested this week and then released, and he was starting defensive tackle, that might soften up the middle of that defense. And with that being the case, look for AD all day.
AD.
Peterson straight up the gut.
Man, you see him do the old Walter Payton step last week and just truck.
Al Harris.
See, I love that, man. I seen the old Walter Payton step when he got up on his toes.
Did the high
Oh,
step in
man,
there.
I love that. Man, I almost jumped out my chair, man.
Well, I'm going to jump out my chair this Sunday because the Minnesota Vikings. In a close game, I got a feeling that Minnesota 21, Colts 17. Vikings would get their first win of the
You
season.
don't think-
Colts would be 0-2.
You don't think Dungy's a little bit more crafty to kind of play some mind tricks on Tavares Jackson?
I think on the defensive side, what will happen is that they'll be trying to play some mind tricks on Tavares. But I think what Brad Childress will do is he's going to load up, go two tights, and then just run
it down the
straight
throat.
down the throat
Run it
of the
down.
Indianapolis
That's their
Colts.
best bet, man.
And then when Bob Sanders and Bethea start to walk up close to the line of scrimmage,
Berrien.
then he'll throw over the top to Berrien, and that's the difference in the game. Look for Sidney Rice to get in the end zone one time because he's on my fantasy team.
All right.
Now to the Bears. Bears played the Carolina Panthers. Carolina, Jake Loam, big victory on the road, San Diego. They get to go home. The key to this game, I still believe, is the Bears' rushing attack and their offensive line. If they can play the same way they played against the Colts, Bears got a chance. Julius Pepper's been kind of non-existent for the past couple of years on the defensive end side. But here's the thing. It's contract year. You know what that means? These dudes
Sack,
right.
sack.
He'll probably get 15 sacks this year,
Right.
get $50 million, and then go back to his 4-sack
I
production.
think what the Bears are going to have to do is just get up in DeLong's face, right up the middle. Kind of flush him out. He's not that mobile. He's not a stiff board like Manning, but no quarterbacks likes pressure up the middle. You know what I mean? So if they can, bring that rush defense, contain that running game, and make DeLong throw the ball, I think they'll be all right.
The Bear Killer is not playing because he beat up a teammate. That would be Steve Smith. Steve Smith won't be back on the field till week 3 against who? The Minnesota Vikings. Goes from bad to worse for my team.
Look for Devin Hester to make a play this game.
Bears, I'm going to go out on a limb, and, I might be jinxing you, Bear fans. I'm going with the Bears 13 and Carolina Panthers 10. I know if you're writing this stuff down at home, don't call here next week talking about, you don't know what you're talking about, because I already know that. Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers' era has started, and it looked pretty good. He's 18 for 24 against the Minnesota Vikings. He didn't throw over 200 yards, but he did what they were supposed to do, which is manage the game, not making any turnovers. Ryan Grant, all the reports about him having hamstring trouble, premature. He ran roughshod over the Vikings. The Packers' defense looked good.
They
Special
gonna
teams
smash
looked
Detroit,
good.
man.
And Detroit, they lost to the Atlanta Falcons.
They gave up 200 yards to my cousin, Michael Turner.
The burner, Michael Turner. Matt
And he
Ryan.
gave up another 100 to the bag up. Norwood.
When is Matt Millen going to get fired? That's all I'm waiting for. Somebody call me and tell
What
me.
been out there like 8-9 years?
Right. Now, if Detroit was an Arena League team, they'd be good because all they know how to draft is wide receivers.
Right.
But I think with what's going on up there is a shame that somebody can keep their job that long. We'll start the Matt Millen get fired bandwagon tonight. Green Bay in a laugher over the Packers. It won't even be close.
Nah.
Other game we got going on. Buffalo blasted the Seattle Seahawks 34-2 or whatever. the score was
Roscoe
there.
out there getting his Xbox moves on.
Roscoe Parrish is spinning, whirling dervish, doing his thing. And now they take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now you talk about a must-win game. Jacksonville is going home.
Right.
They're 0-1. Everybody, once again, another one of those sexy picks of what you expected was going to happen in the AFC. And for Jacksonville to contend, still know it's early. It's only week 2.
This might be one of the best games of the week.
Okay.
I'm gonna take Jacksonville in a close one.
Jacksonville in a close one.
Yeah.
All right, well, Big Wayne's taking Jacksonville. I'm going to take Jacksonville, too, because I think their defense will bother Trent Edwards down there in the Ville. Here's a game that used to be good, so I'm going to say this one real quick. Oakland, Kansas City. Oakland sucks, Kansas City sucks, but they're both at home, at Kansas City, so I always take the home team when two teams suck.
All right. Yeah, Kansas City.
Super Bowl champs.
Hey, keep in mind, though, Bob Ryan is mad. Yeah, I'm mad. I got gray hair.
Right, look at this.
Yeah,
And
okay.
the team still stinks.
Right.
And the defense was, and your responsibility, it was horrible.
Right.
So, Buddy Ryan's daddy, son, see you later. The Giants go down to St. Louis. Now, if there's a worse team than the Detroit Lions,
St.
they're
Louis.
down there in St. Louis.
Led by the Predator.
His mask came off and he was revealed against the Philadelphia Eagles.
I don't understand. He got his bell rung.
And he took his helmet and threw it to the sidelines like, I don't need this. You big dummy, you do need it, Lamont. I'm coming to join you, honey, with the Predator on my back. He's a big dummy. Mark Bulger, he was a good quarterback about 4 years ago.
Right.
Torrey Holt had 1 catch for 9 yards.
Hey, Tori, the Bears need a receiver, man. Why don't you, work something out? Call Lovey, man. Lovey used to be one of your coaches.
Torrey, go to the place where receivers go to die.
Yeah, whatever.
Because your career's already over in St. Louis because Bulger, he can't throw to you. You might as well go to Chicago and take a shot.
Right.
New York Giants and a laugher in that one.
Right.
Now the New Orleans Saints,
Ooh, that's a good one.
they look good against Tampa at home. But they got to go on the road to Washington. Now, I know Washington lost the first game of the season on a Thursday night to the Giants.
good game.
But they got 10 days to prepare for this game.
Yeah.
And it's at home.
No coasting.
No Colston.
So it's going to get a heavy dose of Reggie.
Yeah.
I'm going New Orleans.
New Orleans on the road.
And Drew Brees is a gunner, man.
I think look for Chris Cooley to get in the end zone and also look for Clinton Portis to give a heavy dose. Because Hollis Thomas, the defensive tackle for the Saints, he's gone. Tricep tear, he's out for the season. They actually just released him. So with that, just like what we talked about with Minnesota and Indianapolis, look for Clinton Portis to be banging right at the New Orleans Saints defense. I'm going to go with Washington.
Jeremy Shockey going to make a showing this weekend.
Yeah. I hope.
No coasting. They're going to have to hit Shockey.
Now, I hope I'm wrong, because if I'm wrong, that means that my fantasy team, in terms of Drew Brees and quarterback, he did good. But another day we'll talk about that. New England and the New York Jets. If I asked you in June about this game and said,
Ask me right now.
If I'd asked you in June, though, who had the best quarterback on the field going into this game, you'd say who?
Oh, yeah, TB. Yeah, it would have been New England.
Now, September, TB's at home with the lap dog and his knee up on one chair and a supermodel on the other knee.
Right.
And you got Brett Favre.
On whose knee? Hers or his?
Well, you know how small them supermodels are. I don't think he's on her knee because she don't even have knees.
Ah, okay.
She just got legs.
Right.
But Brett Favre is still doing his Brett Favre stuff down in New York. He tossed one in the end zone on a 4th down play. I'm sick of that.
Man, that crap will not work against New England. I'm going with New England.
You going with New England?
Yes, sir. It's a lot of grown men on that team, professional athletes, that's taking it to heart, that's saying that their season is over because of one player is not there.
Right.
If you were on that team, how would you feel?
Oh,
a team that's been to the Super Bowl over and over again.
Right. I agree. I'd elevate my game to another level. Look for Lawrence Maroney to get a lot of carries this game. And Matt Castle, if they throw it, he's going to go mass protection and be throwing it over the top.
They still got to guard 81.
Pittsburgh, Cleveland. Ooh. Cleveland was my sexy pick. They're about as sexy as Phyllis Diller and a thong. They are ugly. The Cowboys crushed them last week.
Pittsburgh. Brandon Edwards had so many penalties and dropped passes.
Man, look, they got me itching. They so bad. Man, Pittsburgh, Willie Parker,
they finna smash them dudes, man.
Now, the last game before we get on out of here, which is the biggest game, Philadelphia takes on Dallas. Dallas Cowboys look like the Super Bowl contender they're supposed to be. Who you going with?
Man, this is a tough one, man.
Well, I'm going to tell you what. I'm going with Dallas. I'm going to put it right out there. I'm going to go with Dallas until somebody proves me wrong.
Home team in a close game, you got to go with the home team. I'm going with Dallas.
Well, that's going to do it for another edition of Tell It Like It Is, UPTV Channel 6. Big Joe and Big Wayne, we did it ourselves. We had the invisible stat girl, Jason in the back, flipping the switches and answering the phones for us. We appreciate you guys checking us out. Get out and check out the Illini tomorrow morning, and then go over and check out the Legends game tomorrow night. Good night, everybody.
You ready? Let's go. Yeah. For those of you that want to know what we're all about, it's like this, y'all. This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15%